Welcome to miniatures.de, your military miniatures magazine. In this issue, we are going to assemble the German MG08 heavy machine gun team by permanently welding the weapon and its crew figures to their common base. This is the preferred method of assembly because Airfix soft plastic figures, like these German infantrymen of World War I, cannot be glued together. We normally weld soft plastic figures with the hot spatula of a pulse-regulated soldering iron, but today we are going to improvise and use more basic tools. An old number 11 X-Acto blade, heated over a candle flame, can do the job nearly as well, even if it isn't as convenient as a hot wax spatula. The trick is to heat the scalpel blade over a candle flame for 3 to 5 seconds and then apply it to the plastic part that needs to be welded. Now comes the tricky part of welding the tripod-mounted weapon to its large plastic base. The pegs on the tripod are so short and thin that they do not hold the machine gun in place securely. It's difficult to properly align the machine gun and then flip the base over to allow us to fuse the pegs with the base. The peg at the rear of the tripod is missing, making it even more difficult to attach the machine gun to the base. The tripod is very delicate and it will bend out of shape when too much force is applied while holding it. With luck, you may be able to get at least one peg in there and then flip the base around for welding. So keep trying. If that doesn't work, there is always the option of welding the tripod in place from above. This really is much more difficult than welding figures or horses to their bases, because the part is so small. Okay, enough is enough. Now we're going to apply brute force and weld through the tripod into the base instead. Now that didn't work, so we're going to have to repeat the process one more time. It helps to melt the surface of the base a little and allow the tripod to fuse with the molten material. There is surprisingly little damage to the tripod, certainly nothing to worry about or even fix later. Now, with the tripod in place, it is much easier to insert the next peg into the base and continue welding. Using the heated blade, we cut across the base and the peg, permanently fusing the two together. It's always a good idea to make 2 of these cuts across each peg to create a secure bond. Okay, now just one more peg to weld and we can move on to the crew figures. There it is. Remember, you must be able to see the peg to be able to weld it to the base. Again, another crosscut needs to be applied to fuse the base with the peg of the tripod. The crosscuts have to be deep enough to melt a good amount of plastic without cutting through the base entirely. Otherwise, there will be damage to the surface of the base. With the machine gun securely positioned, we can now move on to the crew figures. We'll start with the loader because the two pegs on this figure are easy to match with the base. The loader needs to be pressed down firmly to ensure that the pegs go all the way into the base. Okay, there they are. Another crosscut across the base and the peg will keep this figure in place. Now it's important to check that the loader is kneeling properly and not leaning into or away from the machine gun. Press the figure down firmly and weld the second pin with another crosscut. Using an X-Acto blade for the job allows us to work close to a fingertip without injury. Just make sure not to stab the knife through the base and into another finger below. It helps to use an old scalpel blade which has already lost its point. The machine gunner is next. His kneeling position is mirrored on the base, making him easy to fit. Again, the figure needs to be pressed down firmly so that one of its short pegs extends well into the base. There it is. Now, if we can just hold the figure like this for a few seconds, we can fuse it in place securely. One cut, followed by another cross cut, should do the trick here too. That done, we need to check that the figure is properly aligned so that we can insert the second peg and weld it to the base as well. So here it is. Notice how much pressure is exerted to ensure that the peg goes all the way into the base. Another cut and a cross cut, and the figure will be firmly in place. There we are. That's a good enough bond for our wargaming purposes. To create an even stronger bond, we can weld right through the base and into the figure's leg on the ground. The hot blade goes through the plastic easily, melting, mixing and fusing it. Now that's an even stronger bond. The loader, too, could do with some additional welding to prevent him from wobbling around. To do this, we'll try to weld through the base and into the ammunition box beside him. Finally, the team leader can be welded to the base. He is the most difficult of the three to position because the distance of the pegs on this figure matches more than one layout on the base. Okay, here's one peg in position and we're ready to weld the figure in place. Heat the blade, cut and cross-cut as usual. The bond is okay, but the figure still tilts to either side, so we need to weld his leg to the base as well. Heat the blade and then punch through the base where the figure's thigh touches the ground. Notice that molten plastic formed a small droplet right next to the figure's leg. We can fix that by brushing the plastic bulge away from the figure and into the base. There we are. Everything is welded in place now, ready to be painted. Notice that the gunner is looking away from his team. That's something we need to fix. Using a sharp scalpel blade, cut the machine gunner's head off right above the collar. Drill the gunner's neck open using a 0.5 mm micro drill. Now insert a section of 0.6 mm piano wire into the gunner's neck. Drill the separate head open to fit onto the piano wire, making sure that the head is properly aligned on the micro drill. That's what it should look like. Make sure not to drill so deep that the helmet spike will be destroyed. Remove any excess plastic and we're ready to dry fit the head in its new position on the torso. The head slides into position nicely and it can now be turned to face the other gunners. If the new pose works, we can remove the head again and then glue it in place with super glue. Super glue gel is the preferred medium here because it does not run all over the figure. Apply a small amount of super glue gel to the piano wire, then put the head back on the figure and turn it into the proper position. So, this is what the German Maschinengewehr 08 heavy machine gun team now looks like prior to painting. Thank you for watching. For more information, you're welcome to visit our website at miniatures.de.